I think, for a roadshow to attract UK investors to place their money on the Philippine growth story. For more on what to expect from that meeting, Chris Nelson of British Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines joins us live. Hi, Chris. Good to see you.
Good morning, and good morning to all your viewers.
All right, so Chris, the delegation is well represented. Finance Secretary Jokno is going to be there. The BSP governor is there. Budget Chief Amena Pangandaman is there. What do both sides hope to achieve with this meeting, with the briefing? I mean, is there a government-to-government deal that can be negotiated other than, the elusive bilateral trade deal? Any low-hanging fruits?
Look, I think what it's going to do is, first of all, UK trade and investment has already reached $2 billion, as mentioned by our ambassador. So I think what's going to look to is attract more investment from the UK into the Philippines, and I think to keep up this momentum. In terms of any bilateral agreement, I think what we're going to be launching soon, hopefully by March or certainly early part of the year, is going to be the Developing Countries Tariff Scheme, which is going to be the UK's replacement to GSP Plus, which is going to be an enhanced scheme, and we're obviously going to see some benefits from that. But I think more importantly, this visit of the economic team follows up and reinforces the close ties between the UK and the interest that we've generated and we've discussed on a number of occasions on this program. So I think it's going to keep up that momentum. And just to make one other comment, we also have today with the British Chamber an economic outlook event, including a speaking by our ambassador. And obviously we're going to have representatives from Department of Trade and Investment and also from banks giving their forecast. So this again is highlighting and elaborating on the key potentials here.
Mm-hmm. All right. Chris, you mentioned DCTS, Developing Countries Trading Scheme, which is supposed to facilitate free trade and boost trade with 65 countries, including the Philippines. How is this different from GSP? And is this essentially like a bilateral free trade agreement? Would this render our quest for that FTA moot and academic already?
No, I wouldn't say it's a replacement for bilateral. I think an FTA agreement, as I understand it, is much more comprehensive. However, it does, and we would anticipate it would further increase trade between the two countries. We've looked here, and what obviously the UK, particularly the Department of International Trade, has done is to reduce some of the requirements. I think it opens up another 150 lines of goods. And overall, we anticipate, or is anticipated, that over 99% of all the goods traded from the Philippines into the UK would be tariff-free. So we anticipate a much more simplified scheme. We're hopeful it might be in March, but certainly in the first part of the year. And this, again, will go to reinforce that trade, which, as I mentioned earlier, has already hit £2 billion.
Do you already have estimates? Have you crunched the numbers with the DCTS? How much our trade numbers will grow, maybe from 2 billion, double that this year or next year?
Well, I think we'd all like to double. I don't think they've crunched the numbers that way. But look, as we've talked before, I think we've seen a lot of growth. I mean, here I always come across, one of our major success and continue is the export of pork and British meat. And of course, just to cap into, a comment, obviously, we were interested to read that President Marcos is very highly concerned, obviously, on inflation. He made a comment today, I think that was yesterday, in the media. And of course, things like the supply of pork is helping in that food inflation and, of course, in terms of security. So we see the DCTS as a further boost to the very increasing relations, and just sort of say, this is our 77th year of diplomatic relations between the two countries.
All right, and it's an interesting year because, Chris, an updated forecast from business consultancy firm EY is predicting that the looming recession in the UK could actually be twice as bad as previously thought. Instead of a 0.3% contraction, that's now expected to come in at a 0.7% contraction in GDP this year, followed by a modest 2.4% growth next year and 2.3% in 2025. Your business partners are now probably curious to know, amid reduced government support, higher taxes, and slowing economy.
Yeah, so if you look at the UK, I mean, I think first of all, let's talk about inflation. Inflation came down slightly because that's obviously been a significant concern, not in the UK, just in the UK, but across the world. The US, everybody obviously is looking at central bank interest rates. So that's a good sign. I mean, it needs to come down a lot further. In terms of the economy, I still think there's lots of opportunity in the UK. I mean, there's still actually some tightness in the supply market, labor supply, particularly actually in hotel and hospitality. And I think what the UK is actually looking forward is a more moderation of their inflation, which then obviously assists going forward in terms of interest. The other thing I just make a note, of course, is the expectation, certainly by investors, would seem to be fairly optimistic. I mean, the FTSE or the London Stock Exchange is actually close to nearly 8,000 points. So it's actually gained at the start of this year. So I think that the UK will continue to grow. And I think linking that, Mimi, is the fact that UK companies see the need also to develop overseas. And as we've stressed a number of times, the Philippines is a very important market and, very importantly, a gateway to Southeast Asia. And may I just repeat again, one of our wishes for 2023 is, of course, that they ratify RCEP, because I think that would further segment its position in such a large trading bloc.
Unfortunately, Chris, it seems like we're not hearing a lot about RCEP yet. Hopefully that gets going. And finally, I understand the Great British Revival is happening end of March, after what, being on hiatus for since 2019. What's happening there? What can we expect? And I'm very curious, what do you think is our strongest cultural connection between our two cultures? I know in the 90s it used to be the Spice Girls. What is it today?
Well, glad you reminded me of the Spice Girls. I think, well, first of all, it's going to be the Great British Festival. You're quite right. The last time was 2018. We're very happy to bring it back. It's going to be in BGC on the weekend of the 24th, 25th of March. We anticipate the average foot traffic is 150,000 people. And we anticipate showcasing high quality, not just in terms of British culture, but obviously great British brands. And what's the key connection? I would actually talk about the fact that we have over 200,000 Filipinos who live in the UK. They're now obviously a high number of those are British citizens. And this has strengthened those relationships very strongly. And we've seen how the Philippines has actually looked. And obviously the two countries are close. And finally, I'd have to say, of course, President Marcos himself obviously knows the UK well. He went to Oxford. So all those bring it together. In terms of culture, I can't talk about the Spice Girls. We will probably have some look back to the Beatles. But I think the connection is now the people and the fact that people travel between the two countries, and that reinforces it. And you'll see that, of course, at the festival.
All right. Exciting times ahead. Chris, we look forward to speaking with you during the festival itself. Thank you so much.